They're about protecting the soul of our country. You should get rid of the CHIP Act and whatever's left over. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that.
We're going to cover Trump's first State of the Union. It was always going to be what was covered today. It's going to dominate the news cycles for the next few days, I'm sure. We'll do half here and then half in our 4 p.m. upload, as it's a lot to cover. He went longer than any president in history. So be sure to like, helps us out a ton. Subscribe if you haven't already. And let's jump in with more fact checks ready than I think we've ever needed.
They're about protecting the soul of our country. Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that.
Yeah, this was the theme of his entire economic message. Hey, you're going to suffer for a while, but trust me, in the long run, I'll solve it. Even though I said I'd figure it out by day one, he said it about tariffs, then doubled down and said it again specifically about farmers, but he still doesn't understand how tariffs work. Like, they can serve some niche purpose. If we have a competitive industry already set up in America, or if you're passing a bill to drive investment to a certain sector that you want to be competitive and you want to ensure its return on investment, like with electric vehicles is a good example for this, but they objectively raised prices. They did with electric vehicles as well. Like, it's just what happens historically, because first, I guess, they go on American businesses. Trump still thinks they go to other countries. They don't. And historically, these American companies pass the cost on to consumers, just point blank period. And it leads to job loss from companies, laying people off to help stop gap losses, wage loss, price growth. I mean, the American people are not okay with these kinds of things.
It has been stated by many that the first month of our presidency, it's our presidency, is the most successful in the history of our nation.
Well, let's see. The first month of his presidency brought the first fatal plane crash in decades, followed by multiple other plane crashes after he gutted the FAA and aviation safety. Measles outbreaks as he defunds the NIH, $880 billion in Medicaid cuts coming also while bird flu and measles and all of these things. But he announced that to steal healthcare from special needs kids and the elderly, to fund tax cuts for the wealthy, civil rights era discrimination laws, executive orders being reversed, multiple proponents of the Constitution being challenged and targeted, from due process to free speech, threats to invade sovereign territories from Panama to Gaza, and a handful of lawsuits. Is this what we call successful? Like, are we seriously considering owning the libs a metric of success? Because what else is there?
You should get rid of the CHIP Act and whatever's left over, Mr. Speaker. You should use it to reduce debt or any other reason you want to.
This is, of course, extra hilarious because the CHIPS Act was passed on a completely bipartisan basis, something Trump doesn't understand or know how to do, and Trump, not understanding government, thinks that it has to be a Democratic policy because the Democratic president signed it. Also, he goes on, which I didn't show, to tout investment that came from the CHIPS Act as if it was his own that he drove, so it must have been pretty good policy if he wants to steal some credit from what it's driven to America. But he says this to maybe all of 10 claps. I mean, this bill conservatives helped write and fully signed off on, and Trump would be boasting it if it was him in office that had signed it, kind of like with the bipartisan border deal, which he killed. But it's got Biden's name on it, so of course it's a bad bill.
Joe Biden especially let the price of eggs get out of control. The egg price is out of control, and we're working hard to get it back down.
Let's just be all the way for real. In his first 2 months, Trump has signed 76 executive orders, repealed multiple others, and the House has hashed out its budget plan for this year, possibly next year as well. And for reference, Trump 76 executive orders that he signed in 2 months is one executive order less than Biden signed his entire first year. Both are historic rates for what presidents usually sign in their first year, and not a single one of those targets lower prices. Nothing in the budget is going to help lower prices. They're literally doing nothing about the prices that got them elected. They've admitted multiple times they can't do anything about it, and they literally just have no plan to solve it. MAGA, again, foul for it. Kamala Harris was the only candidate with a plan. She had FTC penalties to quell price gouging, which we see a lot of corporations are taking advantage of this inflation to price gouge as much as 25% of what their prices have already increased. And Trump is in the pocket of these corporations, so he's never going to go after these things. And instead, MAGA is just going to have to own these high grocery prices and explain to us the next 4 years how it's actually patriotic to pay more for eggs because it helps our farmers and blah, 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 blah.